Welcome, my friends, to the Sage of Quay Radio Hour, your home for free and critical thinking, and I'm your host, Mike Williams. Tonight, Sofia Smallstorm returns to the show. The discussion with Sofia is a conversation we had based on an excellent article written by Quay entitled "The Strawman is the Ego, the Parasite Cleanse Begins at Home." The link to the article can be found in the show notes below. When Sofia and I connected to talk about the article, we decided to record the conversation and see where it took us. So the dialogue for this show is unscripted, with me and Sofia exchanging our thoughts on how our energy and our conscious awareness is extracted by the ubiquitous corporate structure that surrounds us, and how the ego is a reflection of our manipulated self and not our soul self. And so without further ado, here's the conversation with Sofia. Sofia, you sent me an email the other day, and the article that was attached, the link, was from Quay. And the name of the article was "The Strawman is the Ego, the Parasite Cleanse Begins at Home." And in that article, Kit goes into great detail about the corporate system of commerce and how our corporate strawman plays into that system.
I think it's very important to acknowledge, and that's what this show is going to be about, acknowledgement, because we're missing a piece of our existence. We're totally blind to it. And that's this straw man thing that we have to be aware of. That's the crux of what he's saying. We've got to be conscious of it. We've got to be conscious of entering a relationship with it, activating it when we do, and we don't know. We don't know that we've got this tin can rattling behind us that's completely soundless.
Yeah.
You know? So one of the very important things that he says in the article is that the ego identifies with the straw man. The ego is the straw man. That's basically the title. But the ego identifies with labels and quantities. It's a part of us that needs constant reassurance, that's built from our achievements and success. Our sense of self-worth is most often, not in everybody's case, but most often derived from accomplishment, and that's what we're taught from when we're very small. Good grades, you mowed the lawn and you got some money and then you saved your money, and it's all quantified. So the ego is thus situated here in this third dimensional world. And because it has to see positive accrual, it's really fear-based. Because when that accrual isn't happening, then it gets all nervous.
Yeah, because it wants pleasure. It's looking for a happy outcome.
Right. It's looking for achievements, accomplishments, quantities that are being racked up.
Right.
The ego wants to win. It wants to be the fastest in a race. It never wants to be the loser. It wants to be, the top salesperson in the company. It doesn't want to be unrecognized. It doesn't want to be middling. And the thing is, so many of us are middling. We're on the middle levels of everything because that's the law of averages, that we get very hard on ourselves and we start competing with one another in order to offset or appease that mentality that lives in us. It's ego-driven, that doesn't like the fact that we're not a star. And so the ego constantly focuses on money problems. Whoever, I don't care who you tell me about, chances are, no matter how much money they have, it's not enough. So this world is built on so much cross-competition and comparison that no amount of money that anyone makes is enough, because we're trained to spend it. As soon as you make it, okay, now we can put our kid in this daycare rather than that one, or this preschool rather than that one. Now we can, hey, we don't need a car, it's 4 years old. Let's get one that's brand new. Let's do a lease on a new whatever, infinity, right?
Right.
And so that's what the money is. It's infinity. It's infinitely going to dog you. It's never going to be enough. And it's like a claw that goes right into your ego. And so the money issues, they all, Mike, they're centered in, they're bolted to this contractual arrangement making that we're constantly going through, the activation of our straw man.
The society and the culture impacts the ego by essentially attacking the self-esteem, the self-importance, the self-worth, self-respect, your self-image, your self-confidence. And so by attacking it and making you believe that you are deficient in those things, makes you want to achieve or maybe even overachieve. That's the demand they're trying to build. And when they build that demand, what that does is it then fosters the desire to contract. Whether you understand it's contracting or not is irrelevant, because that's what happens. So in your example, if you're driving a certain car and you go to work, and let's just say you just got promoted to an executive and you're driving an Oldsmobile, and the other guys in the executive ranks are driving BMWs, well, what's going to happen there, right? You want to run with the pack. And so the society and the culture says that you don't want to be driving an Oldsmobile, do you? You know, you want that BMW. And so that's when the contracting starts, and it really starts to feed the ego, if you will, to go achieve those things, because you'll feel better. You'll have self-esteem. You'll have self-importance and self-worth and self-respect because I now drive a better car.
Right. It all has to do with comparison. If you're the only tree in the forest, there's no forest. If you're the only tree in a forest of wildflowers, then you have nothing to compare yourself to. And in this world, nobody looks good compared to somebody who has more. And that's what we're built from, right?
Right.
I mean, you see it in your neighborhoods, the McMansions, and they're all right next to one another. They have no yards because people are too lazy to do yard work. They are all inside. They're all buying stuff on the internet. They're furnishing their houses, constantly improving. And so if you're looking at acquisitions, yours compared to somebody else's, other people are always going to have more than you. There are going to be people out there with more than you. And what you said is exactly right. It makes you want to contract again and again and again, more and more and more, for more and more and more. Because the BMW is more than the Oldsmobile. And you might have to get a 3 Series the first time out. But then you can graduate to a 5 Series.
Right.
And then 7. You know, and you might get the gas guzzler, the M model.
And what most people don't even realize is that this type of existence has been put in play. When I say it's been put in play, what I mean is it's not natural. It's a fiction. But people have been made to believe that it's not fiction, that this is reality. This is the real world. This is the way the world works. I remember one time having a discussion with a family member, and we had a conversation about debt. And I was trying to explain how debt is used as a lever to keep people oppressed and to keep them in fear and to keep them in scarcity. And this person looked at me like I had 3 eyeballs in my head. And they turned around and they said to me, but debt is what makes the world go round. So that's the mindset. People have been so indoctrinated and propagandized to believe that this fiction, which is the debt, and it's the desire to go chase more and more money, climb the ladder, have the big McMansion house, they'll have the BMW, and so on and so forth. They don't get it. They don't realize that this is not what life is really about. It exists because you bought into the fraud.
Well, because of inflation, very few people can pay cash, can own something outright. And I'm not even going to get into the fact that you don't own your car, you don't own your house.
Right.
You're just occupants. You have to go into debt now if you want to climb. If you want material things that are status symbols, you're going to have to pay through the debt system. And you're going to have to activate your strawman. So your strawman is your corporate self. It's your legal fiction that is invoked, that is contracted with when you have a bank account. It's not with you, the living person. We've done interviews on this before. But your signature is what gives that strawman a green light status. So the corporate state this entire network of fictitious entities on paper, from your water district to your school to your police to your mayor's office to everything around you. The state you live in is incorporated. The federal government is incorporated. All the insurance agencies that you have insurance policies that are incorporated. So everything around us asks for that strawman connection, our strawman connection. And what Walker says in his piece is that we don't even know this. We don't know that the only way we can use any of these, let's call them benefits, is through that straw man. So all of the corporate interactions are artificial. They only exist on paper through the form of contracts. And because they're artificial, they operate with these artificial rules and artificial intelligence even, right? That's what he says. So the fact that we are ignorant of the real nature of the corporate state that envelops us, that blankets us, and we don't even know how many times we put our living spear into it by way of our signature. We do not operate consciously in this commerce system. And that, I thought, was a very important point that he made. It was like a revelation when you really let it sink in.
Well, the thing is, people are walking through it. They're sleepwalking through it. I mean, it's a zombified state, and I'm not trying to be derogatory toward people. It's just that this is how people know the system. They were born and bred into this corporate structure from the day they were born with their birth certificate. And this whole sense in the article about giving up your energy, or it's usurping your energy, is spot on. Because think about, and I'm talking to the audience now, think about what it is you have to do on any given day to be able to meet your obligations, to meet your responsibilities, to pay your bills, and so on. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of focus. And instead of focusing your energy on other things that are more productive in your life, spiritual growth as an example, I'm big on that, you're going to be spending a lot of your time just on that hamster wheel churning. And like I said, meeting your obligations, your responsibilities for those things that you have contracted for. Now, some things obviously you have to contract. We live in this matrix and you have to be able to survive in it and you have to make your way through it. But there's a lot of things that people engage in that are unnecessary. And I guess we'll get into this a little later, but one of those things is incurring enormous amounts of debt, overhead. Debt is their biggest lever because the bigger the hole that you dig for yourself, debt-wise, the more they have you, the more energy they're going to be able to extract from you because you're going to have to work and work and work. And the working piece of it is also encompassed by fear and worry, all of that. It's zapping, it's extracting the life force right out of you. And that's how this fiction survives. It survives, it takes your life force and it uses it as its fuel. So you're essentially like a little gas pump, putting your gas in their vehicle so they can go.
That's a good way to put it. For so long, I still didn't understand it until I worked out this part of it, Mike. So the game is, the odds are that when you're offered this concept of credit or debt, you will use it. You will avail yourself of it because it's very hard to survive with inflation factored into our reality as it is. It's very hard to survive without going into some debt.
Right.
You know? So they figure you're going to use it. You're going to want a house because that's the status symbol. Oh, he's a homeowner. Oh, you bought your first home. Oh, and this is how it works. Your first car. Oh, your first vacation. Oh.
Yep.
So we all want that. We all want to be able to tell each other we went on vacation, to a hot place and we stayed in a hotel and we drank margaritas and we did nothing and we recharged. I mean, I don't know how that recharges you, but it's supposed to. But anyway, getting ourselves into debt, the game is such that they know that a great number of us will overshoot. And they know because the whole deck is stacked against us. The odds of divorce, then you have to run 2 homes. I mean, I could describe it in all different kinds of ways, but there are built-in booby traps in this civilization and this culture. And if you happen to get caught in one or another booby trap, you're going to have, and you overshot on this debt thing, you're going to get stuck with the debt and with too little to pay it with, right?
Right.
So that's when the corporation, which is the partner in your contract, turns on you. Now, partners in our lives should not turn on us, right?
Right.
Human relationships are such that if you call anyone a partner, anyone, the last thing you want is to be betrayed by them. But what happens when you can't pay your mortgage? The bank, your partner in the deal, forecloses on you. It just takes your whole house, and it doesn't even give you part of it or credit for what you did pay on. You're booted out. You just go into the ozone. You're a shot out of the cannon, and you will fall somewhere on your ass.
The partnership is not benevolent.
Exactly. But in our relationships with each other on a real life basis, if I were to call anybody my partner, everybody would expect we got along. We really liked each other. We really trust one another. We're going to be there for each other. So this debt system offers you partnership and contractual agreements, and they're just waiting. Those artificial entities are waiting to take the whole thing from you. And that's betrayal.
What they want to extract from you is they want to extract real value, things that have real value, tangible value. And they do this by putting you on that hamster wheel and then slowly submerging most people so that their nose is just barely above the waterline. And for a lot of people, they're bobbing up and down, just drowning in debt. Ultimately, what they're looking to do is that if you can't pay, like in the example you used, you talk about a house, the American dream. But if you can't pay that mortgage payment, that partnership goes sour, and they're going to take that house. And that house is real property. It has tangible value. Whereas they take their worthless fiat money and they try to scheme their way into extracting real, tangible, valuable property from people. And that includes your getting up every day and going to work, because your work, your sweat means something. So they'll take that too. They'll rob you of that. And that's done by taxing you. That's one of their biggest methods of usurping your labor, your hard work, your sweat, and your tears, is by levying a tax.
Right. They have many different ways of doing it. They've
Right.
got interest, they've got taxes, they've got their betrayal all set up. The moment you default, as they call it, and they have no stake that they've had to put up because they've figured out how to do their part based on nothing.
Right. That's the key. They don't do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is the sad thing. All the people who work for them on the lower levels of the ladder, who sit in the banks and act as the managers and the tellers, they don't really understand the nature of this system. And they don't even know, Mike, that they could be falling into one of those booby traps any year. It could happen to them.
Well, many of them are in that situation. You know, that to them, they're going to work. That's their job. And they most likely have situations very much like many of the people that they are servicing or interacting with who are supposedly their customers. The system is very pervasive. It's very evil, but it paints itself as not evil. It paints itself as, hey, we're here to help you. We're here to lend you some money. It's like, you know, Sofia, just a quick example, just staying on the debt thread here for a second. College debt. And I remember back when I was going to school, college didn't really cost that much money, especially if you're going to a state school or a school like that. But today, the level of debt through loans is astronomical. So their game plan is to get the young people. They want to get them saddled with that debt as soon as they possibly can. So if you walk out of college and you have student loans of $75,000, $100,000, $200,000, depending upon whatever your major is, well, you're $100,000 to $200,000 in the hole, and you haven't worked yet.
Yeah, aware of that. It's a very, very sobering, sad situation because these people cannot strike out and be creative in their lives. They
No,
just have to immediately buckle down and
heads,
start the process.
yeah, heads down and don't look up because you've got bills to pay. So, and again, what that does is we're talking about usurping energy. Well, part of your energy, a big part of your energy is your creativity. It's your imagination. It's your ability to spread your wings, to be who you really, really are, who you should be. And they're collapsing that. They want to make sure that you don't spread your wings, that you are not creative and you are not imaginative unless your creativity and your imagination suits them, benefits them. So it's okay to be creative and imaginative at work, but outside of your job, let's say you work for a large corporation, outside, well, you don't have time for that because you're working 60, 65 hours a week. You're on call. You're working weekends. And this is very much how the big, large multinational corporations operate these days. They don't care about your personal time. They don't care about your family. All they care about is that you're there when they need you because you're a human resource. And then when you're no longer a valuable tool in their toolbox, they'll get rid of you.
Now, may I ask if that's what happened to you? Because you had a long-term corporate stint there in your life. You have that feeling that you were there, they owned you and they could work you as hard as they wanted?
Well, I knew that that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
Now, I did a very good job, I think, of pushing back. Now, I had to pick and choose my battles. That's for sure. So in other words, there were many times when we had to have conference calls, let's say on the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, because some big project was coming up or some big presentation was going to happen, whatever. So there are times when you just have to do it. You don't like doing it. You don't want to be on a 2-hour conference call on a Sunday. You'd rather be with your family and doing whatever, having a life. But you do it, you get past it, and you move on. The key is not to continue to say yes to everything that they ask you to do. Because if you do that, and they will do that, they will push the envelope, Sofia, as much as they can possibly push it. And one of the big complaints that a lot of really good people in businesses and corporations have is that the better you are, the more you are tapped to do more work. And it seems like if somebody is not swinging hard at the plate, they seem for some reason to be able to get off the hook. They're still putting a lot of hours in, but not like the people that are what they consider to be their high flyers or very smart people. The high flyers and the very smart people, they get sucked into a big black hole. And what happens is those really good people, they start to hit a point of no return. It becomes, they just burn out or they leave. They have attrition rates. A lot of companies today are trying to figure out how it is that they can keep and retain good people. And they're finding that even when they are throwing money at them, that's not working maybe like it used to in the past. So, I don't know if I answered your question, but you have to be aware of what they're doing. And we're just talking about being conscious, being in your waking state, understanding what's going on. It's no different when you work for a large corporation. You have to understand that they don't love you. You are a human resource. You are a very valuable tool, especially if you're one of the bright bulbs on the team. And they will run you until you drop dead. But they'll keep telling you you're doing a great job. You're a tremendous asset to the corporation.
So, Mike, isn't there a risk you run if you start saying no, or if you intermittently, periodically say no to their requests? Aren't you running the risk of being terminated, or are they at risk of losing somebody really good? And
Well,
that's why they don't terminate the bright bulbs.
yeah, it's both. So that's why I said you have to pick and choose your battles. So if it's just blatant, no, I'm not going to do this, I can't do any extracurricular activities for work, then you're probably going to have a very difficult time. They'll probably let you go at some point. No question. It happens all the time. But for the folks that they consider to be their critical thinkers, those that are really pushing the ball forward, they will back off to a certain degree because there is this little kabuki dance that gets done, We're not happy that he can't make this call, but on the other hand, we don't want to make him unhappy. There's this continual, perpetual state of trying to get a balance to be maintained. That's something that I want to say that there was a good number of people that were able to strike that balance, but there were many others that could not. Sophia, I saw a lot of people crash and burn, just completely burn out, and not just from the standpoint of exhaustion, but their family lives were ruined. There was divorce. It just got so distorted with regard to what their priorities were in life. See, a corporation wants your priorities to be the corporation. Period. Regardless of all of the gibberish that they put on their internal podcasts and their town hall meetings and everything else, you have to see through that. You have to understand this is all propaganda. This is to keep your head in the game because they know that they have to continually work it that way. Otherwise, your head won't be in the game. And that's the problem with a lot of big companies are having today is the fact that a lot of people are just not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, And some folks are leaving to go do completely different things in their life. Others are going to work for smaller companies, whatever. But I don't know. I hope I'm making some sense out of this. You have to pick and choose your battles when you're working in these big multinational corporations because they will run you into the ground if you allow them.
So it's kind of like fencing.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
spar with them. And you have to be brave enough to say no occasionally. Which no's will benefit you, but will send a message to them at the same time and keep you on an equal footing with them as far as your longevity goes.
Yeah, I think the key is you have to appeal to the compassion and the empathy of the person that you're speaking with. So that person would normally be your boss. And there's a way to do it, it has to be professional. And, it has to be a one-on-one type of discussion where essentially what you're trying to do is, in a very diplomatic way, you're trying to get the message across to your boss that this is who you are and you have boundaries. And like I said, sometimes those boundaries, they're going to be broken. And you're going to have to go do some stuff and work on some stuff on some days, Saturdays, Sundays, maybe late at night. You just have to do it. And other times, you're going to be able to step back and you're going to say, not tonight, not this weekend. But it's a constant battle is what I'm trying to say. It's not something that you can do once and then they say, oh, okay, we got it. So we won't bother you on the weekends. No, it doesn't work that way. So that's another way in which they're tapping in and usurping your energy is the fact that you constantly have to stay on your toes. You constantly have to be aware of the demands that they're putting on you. And sometimes these demands are not even done overtly. It's kind of like passive aggressiveness too that takes place. And you have to be able to recognize that. And if you can recognize it and you're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here, And by the way, it's not that the person that you're working with, your boss, is an evil person. They have the same problem. So you have this cascading domino effect that comes down from the very top of the pyramid within a corporation, and that just permeates down into the rank and file. And some people are really good at being able to manage it. Other people are really bad at it. And if you have a manager who's really bad at it, let's say you have a manager where they say jump and he says how high, well then he's going to have the jump and how high approach to his entire team. And that becomes a massive problem. I mean, morale tanks immediately in those types of situations when you have that kind of quote unquote management in place.
So, Mike, Kent Walker, I'm going to repeat his name because he's the one that we're talking about here, his article, which is, let me just scroll up to the top to see. I keep forgetting it has one of these complex names, titles. It's the Strawman is the ego. The Parasite Cleanse Begins at Home.
Right.
And the very last section of this article talks about the power of witnessing. So what you said about realizing what's going on, recognizing that there's a little bit of a duel here, and it's crucial that you meet your own
needs
in the duel. You
right.
can't just submit to it. So he calls that being the witness, just to simply see, to be the witness and see all of it as in a mirror, unclouded by any agenda. And the power of this parasitic system comes from being hidden occult secret. So when you can see it, when you can witness it and you can see yourself in it, then you're shining a light on it. And his very last sentence says, it is counting on your denial and your unwillingness to face it head on with open eyes. So what you described was not allowing it to feed on your complete submission, which is a kind of denial.
Yeah.
It's an active denial. I mean, deep down you might know. You might say to your wife, I can't stand this. My manager has me doing stuff every weekend now. But if you don't face that head on, if you don't voice your objection to that at least some of the time, then you are in physical active denial. And
Right.
that's going to be your undoing.
That will be your undoing. And the thing is, you have to come to a realization as to who are you? Am I a tool or am I a human being? And is my existence relegated to just waking up in the morning, working 60, 65 hours a week? I mean, is that it? And maybe I can squeeze in 2 weeks of vacation, maybe a long weekend here or there. And this is how most people, Sofia, in the multinational corporate employment rank and file, this is what they're faced with. This is the kind of life that many are living. You know, it's basically they live for the job. And then what happens is they get paid well, right? Most people, you know, especially if you're bright and you've been around a while, you're going to make some good money, decent money, and you're going to build a life around that decent money, a lifestyle. And that's the other thing that they're banking on. We're going to pay you $100,000 a year. We're going to pay you $150,000, pay you $80,000, whatever the number is. You're going to build a lifestyle around $100,000 or $150,000.
And that's your chain.
And that's your chain. Exactly. That's the ball and chain. And so then what happens is, let's just say you come to an awakening, an awareness of like, you know what, I'm being abused here. This is ridiculous. And then what happens is now the fear sets in. Because now you start to think to yourself, okay, but where am I going to make $150,000? What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? I don't even have a resume.
I mean, people they get cowed by the equivalence. They're looking for the equivalence. And I hear people saying that all the time. Well, where am I going to get blah, blah, blah? Because this is what my job gives me and I need it. I have kids and this and that. But, you know, I got to know someone in the last few years, just walking on the beach, who happens to be one of the most successful beachfront realtors in the world. Top seller in 2000, blah, 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 worldwide. And I found out from just walking with him and chatting that he started when he was a little kid. He said, I just love to sell. We moved to LA and I'd go and pick up avocados and walk door to door and sell them. So he started with a couple of avocados as an 11-year-old kid, you know?
Yeah.
Look where he got. Now, this is all still part of the tall tale of achievement and accomplishment. I'm not saying everybody who starts with selling lemons and avocados. Actually, I think he also said lemons. is going to end up being the top grossing real estate person in their country or wherever. But it was fascinating to me to realize that this person wanted to endeavor in this way and create for himself, even when he was very young. So that's always possible. You know, you start small, even if you have just been let go. You have to start smaller than where the equivalent to where you are in order to realize it, in order to get it done. Otherwise, it's going to be too huge.
The biggest problem that most people have is that they have no foresight. They do not plan ahead. I know folks, Sofia, that working for, I'll continue to pick on the large corporations, who are 50, 55 years old, maybe even pushing 60 years old. And they continue to live a lifestyle as if they were 30 or 35. In other words, at 30 or 35, you look at your life and you say, I have all of this runway ahead of me. You know, I have lots of room, lots of time to be able to do X, Y, and Z, to pay off this bill, to do this, to do that. And 20 years goes like that. And now you're 55 and you're still operating the same way you were when you were 35, or perhaps even still looking at your life the same way you were when you're 35. Major league mistake, big mistake. These companies, they don't want you around. As soon as you turn 50, you have a big bullseye on you, a big bullseye. And I think a lot of people go into denial on that. They think it's that thinking that says, it'll never happen to me. It only happens to other people. Only other people get laid off, or other people get sent packing. It won't happen to me. But the thing is, they don't really distinguish. You know, there is no other person when these decisions come down from the top of a corporation. When they decide they have to cut costs, it's all fair game. A lot of people make a big mistake by not planning ahead and understanding, what do I want my life to be 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now?
So let's go back a few thousand years.
Yeah.
I have a friend who lives in Northern California, and she was telling me recently about the grinding stones that she sees on her property. She has a small farm. And these are Indian grinding stones, also known as grinding slabs. And I was doing research on this because it was fascinating to me. Apparently, the Native American Indians, they processed acorns for food, which are very time consuming to get nourishment out of. You have to pick them up, then you have to crack them with a stone, then you have to take the flesh out, then you have to either peel it or pound it, depending on if you want to eat the peel, but you pound it by hand on a slab with another rock, and you make a meal. Then you have to get the tannin out of the meal, and you have to bury it or leach the tannin out by running water on it endlessly. And you can make, breads and gruels and things like this out of it, and it's very nutritious. But the amount of work it takes to pound acorns into this meal is just, you can't imagine people doing it today. Yet all the Indian women would go down to the grinding slabs and they would have their acorns, whether they were in baskets or cloths, and they would crack and pound them. And my friend told me that there are hollows. You can see pictures of them on Google. Hollows in the stones where these acorns have been pounded and pounded, kind of like a mortar, a mortar and pestle.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she goes and she takes a walk and she sits by one of these stones and she puts her hand into the depression, into the little hole. And she says she can feel the energy of these women, thousands and thousands of years of energy and people in this stone. It's granite. And she was speaking in awe about this. So I started Googling this concept of taking acorns, processing acorns the traditional way, the way they did in the wild. It really struck me how much time people would spend on their survival, their food, cultivation, and nourishment hours and hours and hours. I mean, sometimes it took a year to get these acorns ready to eat. You'd have to eat them the next year. And I thought about today, how you've got these people rushing around. You'd rip open a cellophane package, you inhale something out of it, and then you're done. That food that you just swallowed was processed by machine and people that you don't even know. It's devitalized. It's not nourishing. And it goes in you in literally a minute flat. And that's it. It's over. You've forgotten about it. Now you have time. What are you going to do with your time? Well, you're going to get on your phone and check your Facebook and order something or buy something or drive somewhere and be a consumer. And so I really appreciated the difference in the kind of energy we expended as people so long ago compared to what we're expending now, which is again by conscious choice and participation, and how much energy is being drained from us and not returned to us simply because we don't spend it on ourselves.
Right. We don't spend it on ourselves. You know, Sophia, I have conversation with folks and I talk about this stuff and, you know, they just cannot see life beyond the material world, you know, the material possessions. And hey, you know what? Going out and getting fast food, it's great. I don't have to cook anything. I don't have to exert any energy. I can just go buy a Big Mac and be on my way, like you said, to go do whatever it is that they think they have to do next. And it's very difficult to get across to people that that is not what humanity is supposed to be about. That's not what existence is supposed to be about. Humanity is supposed to be about gathering up knowledge and then taking that knowledge, developing it into wisdom. It's about being philosophical. It's about your spiritual connectedness. It's about your sense of family. It's about your sense of community. Those are the things. That's what being a human is supposed to be about. And when I take a look at how I view it the way it's supposed to be, and I then take a view of how society and the culture is operating, we are so far from the mothership that it's not even funny. Many times I will readily admit, I think to myself, I don't know if it's fixable, at least not in my lifetime. You know, there's going to have to be some major league changes taking place where people really snap out of the trance that they're in. So, you know, I went on a little bit of a soapbox there, but...
Well, no, you're entitled to go on a soapbox and state how you see it and how you feel about it. But again, this idea of having everyone snap out of it, if I could share with people how gratifying it is to prepare food over a long period of time. I don't spend a year cracking acorns and processing them, but I have prepared food that's labor intensive. I don't like things like Cuisinart, Quick Prep, and these other tools because you spend the time cleaning them, which is very irritating, that you would spend chopping cilantro or parsley, for instance. You know, you have no cleanup. But if you want to get a gadget out and set it up and then do it in 2 seconds, chop your stuff, then you have to clean that gadget and it takes up room. So anyway, the whole idea, to me, it's not productive. It's not productive in the psyche because anything that irritates you is a destructive force on you, you know? And so I think that we could spend more time doing these things more slowly and getting something out of it rather than, you know, scarfing down some prepackaged something. Or I know people, Mike, if they lose a button on a pair of pants, they throw it out, the pair of pants. It's gone. They don't want it anymore.
Yeah.
That is just mind-blowing to me.
Well, it's the discardable society. Don't fix anything, don't repair anything. I mean, years ago, you and I, we're old enough, we can remember this. Things got repaired. Today, something breaks, you just throw it out. Go buy another one, you know? And I don't know, it just seems to be such a veneer, this existence today. It's so superficial that sometimes it's very difficult for me to get my head wrapped around it.
But you can recycle instead of throwing away, and that should make you feel really good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, recycle. Exactly.
Right.
But what I'm saying is
Not
that
recycle clothing.
this,
It ends up being rags in your garage, and then it ends up going in the trash.
right. But I guess my point is that this corporate entity is just turning out products and stuff to be consumed over and over and over again. It's people are always chasing products. They're chasing new TVs, they're chasing new phones, they're chasing new sneakers, chasing new cars, new homes. It's constantly around this hamster wheel. They're going and going and going, And I don't know. I think that people have to pull back. They have to say, look, you know what? I need to lead a simpler life. You and I have had this discussion before, right? We said, you know what? It doesn't really cost that much money to be able to have a decent life, as long as you get your priorities in order and step away from, like in the article, it talks about going off the grid. Now, we know that going off the grid completely is very difficult to do. You have to do these things in stages. But to the extent that you can unplug from major aspects of this matrix, in other words, we were talking about debt, and to me, that's one of the biggest levers. If you can pull yourself away from that, unplug from the debt machine, then you're going to see that you can live on a lot less money. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be a lot happier for it. Because if you don't have all that overhead and you don't have all those things to worry about and to be fearful of, you're going to be more relaxed. And when you're more relaxed, you're going to think clearer, you're going to be more imaginative, you'll be more creative, and you'll go off and go do things that, quite honestly, are going to make you happier in life.
Right. As long as you try to discern what is going to make you happy and what isn't, instead of falling for some trend making around you, I think. Again, that goes back to the consciousness. You have to witness yourself, and you have to see that the arrival in a certain place isn't going to make you happy.
Right.
I remember doing this very consciously when I was in my 20s and 30s. I did buy a new car, and I said to myself, is this going to make you happy? Just be aware. Is this going to make you happy now that you have this? And I realized immediately, no, there's no guarantee that having this brand new car is going to make me happy. So I was aware that I might feel terrible the next day because something else happened, but our feelings are this is the hook that is used, that I call it the low chakra titillation, filling ourselves on things that are not higher faculties, like food and sex and entertainment and laughter. And I was thinking about people in the old days when it would annoy me to go and be amongst a group of people because I thought that their chatter was senseless. It was all about, often it was jokes. I went to a New Year's party when I was in my 20s, and there was a guy there, and he told jokes, and the whole room listened to him. And he must have told 100 different jokes, and he was very good at them. And everybody felt merry and happy, laughing at his jokes. And I realized, I was thinking about this today, I know I might be going on and on, but people want to feel fulfilled, and laughing and experiencing joy, even if it comes from telling jokes, makes them feel fulfilled in the moment. But you leave that party, and what was fulfilling about it? You know what I mean? So what's happening today is we're still deriving amusement in our free time, but this time it's from TV shows and sitcoms and things like that. But so there must be a profound need in humans to be tickled, to laugh with each other. And we're not doing that when we're alone in our living room, having our Budweiser and looking at a television show and laughing. And that's the difference. So the artificial intelligence of the corporate state and its various technologies is attempting to reach us in the same way that we once gathered and interacted with each other. But overall, Mike, I think inquisitive people, curious people, people who want to know the nature of life, the existential thinkers, the philosophical thinkers, they're rare. And they've always been loners. And they've always, my bet is that going back 500 years, 1,000 years, those people still felt like they were the one pea in the pod that wasn't the same as the rest.
Yeah. You know, Sophia, when you talked before about what makes you happy, that was very, very important. And I just want to circle back to that, because to do that, you have to do your inner work. You have to be honest and genuine with yourself. Who are you? And many people cannot answer that question. And it takes work to be able to answer that question. Who are you at your core? Are you the person that wants to watch the Kardashians? Are you the person that wants to focus on Caitlyn Jenner? That's the lowest level denominator that's put out there to be able to fill the gap that you were just talking about, that void that we just intuitively know that has to be filled. And we used to be able to fill that happiness, that fulfillment with being with our friends, our family, our sense of community. It's all been replaced now with, I guess we can refer to it as the AI. It's giving us very base, low-level denominator stuff as a replacement. And many people have become attached to it. And what I'm talking about is the TV set primarily. And that's where people are getting their sense of community now, right? Because they're relating to celebrities on TV. This is not your community. These people are put out there so that it keeps you preoccupied with watching them and their inane activities. And that's the problem with most people today. They are engaged in inane activities. You were talking about the guy that was telling jokes, and I'll tell this real quick. About 3 years ago, I was at a party, a friend's party, and there was this one guy there. I didn't know him. And this guy's big thing, he was probably in his late 40s. He was asking people in the room, did you ever watch this YouTube video? How about this one, that one? And this guy was talking about stuff. I was thinking to myself, I cannot believe I'm sitting in the room with this guy. It was so inane. It was so imbecilic that I was having a hard time really coming to grips with the fact that this guy was in his late 40s. And I'm wondering, how does this man function? Is this what you do? You go home and you watch YouTube? I can't relate to that stuff. I really can't. And I have a very difficult time when I go into a room, and if the conversation is superficial, I cannot stay engaged very long. So a lot of times I'm not the best guy to bring to a party. You know, I usually go there and I'm very polite and I have social skills, but if it's...
You leave early.
I leave early because if the bar is not raised, I cannot participate in the dumbness. And I know a lot of people are going to get pissed off listening to me, probably people in my family and my friends. Did you think my party was dumb, Mike? But look, you know, you have to call a spade a spade. This is how most of humanity operates these days. They operate at that lowest level denominator, and they think that that's fulfilling. They think it's fun.
Well, I think we've been trained to operate like that. I was going to say, well, maybe in ancient Greece, you would have the same frustration. Maybe people would be sitting around talking about inanities also.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe the culture, since I wasn't in ancient Greece, I suspect that the culture, the bar, as you call it, was a little bit higher. And, you know, this is very strange because when you said that a minute ago, if the bar was raised, I was actually picturing the bar at the party being raised by some kind of platform. And then I realized what you were talking about. So I took you literally. I thought, why does he want the bar raised? You know, it was just a flash thought.
Yeah.
But that tells you that the association that we make, a party, and you say bar, I think of the bar at the party. Where is it? Who's going to raise it?
Yeah.
So is that a fault? Did I just disclose where my head is? No. Of course I understood in a millisecond what you were saying, but it was funny because I had the wrong picture first.
Yeah.
So Mike, I can't answer this. I only can, sit here and commiserate with you and not try to complain, to be aware, as Kit suggests, unclouded by any agenda, as he says, witness and see all of it as in a mirror, whether someone else's or our own. So the more people that can witness themselves in this society and understand that there's a shadow behind them that's constantly pulling them into this mirage of artificial contracting, which can have calamitous real outcomes in your life. That's a message I would like to share and spread.
Yeah, I agree, Sophia. It needs to be shared. It needs to be communicated because people have to wake up. They have to become aware of how they're being manipulated. And that's the problem. The vast majority of the population, they have no idea they're being manipulated every single day.
Right. So let's do it.
We should do more shows like this where we talk about this kind of stuff. It's not really structured. And I want to let the audience know, Sophia and I, we really didn't, we had kind of a very generic topic in mind. So this is kind of off the cuff. And what you're hearing is really a conversation between us. It's not scripted. So I think that more talk, more discussion, which is frank and honest, getting it out to the listeners and to the audience, hopefully that will help.
Yeah, there are a lot of nebulous things that when I come across them, I don't understand them well myself. I have a driving need or urge to talk to someone else about them, to derive some kind of better grasp of the reality that, I'm being signaled by this topic is around it. And that's what I did with you, Mike. I read that piece and I called you. I don't know who sent me the piece originally. I think you did, actually. So I thought to myself, this is very good. This is very profound. And I've tried to reach Kit Walker. He's apparently very hard to reach. I would love to interview you, Kit. If you ever get this show or get wind of it, please know that I would love to interview you. Maybe Mike and I would both do that. It would be a wonderful discussion because that was a profound piece of writing with great insights in it.
It was a great article.
So thank you, Mike, for allowing us to air this unscripted discussion.
Well, you're very welcome, Sophia. Anytime. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. And, like I said, it's better than going to the party and listening to the guy telling me about his YouTube prank viewing, whatever he was doing over there.
Well, I'd like to finish with an invitation to listeners to visit my online store, avatarproducts.com. I have argan soap on the website now, which is wonderful. It's made from argan oil, from the Moroccan argan tree, which is endangered now. It used to cover North Africa. And I also have argan oil. I will put that up right away. It's been sitting. I acquired some bottles of very inexpensive argan oil, which are the real thing. You can compare the prices even on QVC and on the internet. But argan oil from Morocco, a drop here and there on the backs of your hands, it will regenerate dry skin absolutely beautifully. I'm sorry, but I had some dry peeling skin on my hands this winter that didn't respond to anything. It's very annoying because I have some great creams. And I put a little argan oil on this area and it was fine within half an hour. I couldn't believe it.
And Sophia, your products are on your website, Avatar Products?
Yes, and the About the Sky website has several very visible links to the store. I'm sorry to be commercial here. It's how I survive, and I do want to share with people the things that have worked very well for me, just based on my own, stumbling into them. And when I find something that does a great job, I want other people to know about it. So that's the basis of my vending, okay?
Well, and they're great products. These are products that people should know about.
All right. Well, Mike, thank you for letting me wax on about some of my wares.
You're very welcome, Sophia. Anytime you want to connect and talk, You have an open invitation.
All right. Well, that's very exciting. Next time I get pricked by a little thought on a concept that I haven't understood, I'll come to you.
All righty. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye now. And that concludes another Sage of Quay interview, and I hope you enjoyed the discussion as much as I did. Links to my guests' websites and social media are listed in the show notes below. And as always, I'd like to thank everyone for listening and visiting the blog. You can get to the blog by typing in sageofquayradio.blogspot.com or simply head over to our hub website at sageofquay.com. Also, if you get a moment, please visit laboroflovemusic.com to listen to my album, Leaving Dystopia. And remember, live in truth and always serve creation. It's really that simple. See everyone next week. Be safe, enjoy, and God bless.